When you don't lead yourself well, you do not lead others well. So if you are eating like crap, if you are not taking care of your body, if you are so stressed because you're constantly on social media and your cortisol levels are high, your energy levels are not going to be in a good place to give your best or to bring your best to your marriage or to your kids. You're gonna be sluggish. You're gonna have brain fog. You're gonna just not feel your best. And when you don't feel your best, you don't bring your best. I want to help all the distracted dads watching or listening today. And first of all, I know most of you, you're not distracted because you're lazy. You're not distracted because you don't care. You're actually distracted because you care too much, because you're trying to do everything right. You're trying to have all the right answers. You're trying to be at all the right things, but you have so many plates spinning, and you know that none of these plates can drop because they're all really important priorities. So you want to be a good husband. You want to be a hardworking and faithful provider. You want to be a loving father. You want to be a strong protector. And as a man who's been married for 19 years, who has 3 daughters, twins that are 16, my youngest daughter's 11, I'm leading a ministry and a business, and there's so many things that I am passionate about doing and that I feel are part of my calling from God. Most of the time, I can feel like I'm not doing any of them well, or I'm not getting any of them right, that I'm not bringing my best effort to the most important things. And in fact, I was talking to a group of men that I lead yesterday, and we were all sharing that same feeling. Like we are not present enough as husbands, present enough as fathers. And I figured if we were feeling that way, that you might be feeling that way as well. And so I wanted to share today the most important thing that I'm learning right now as a dad, just right off the bat. Before we get into the application, here's what I want to encourage you with. Our kids don't need perfection. They need your presence. They need to know that you see them, that you care, and that you're with them in the moment when you're right in front of them, that you're not somewhere else, that you're not distracted by other things, but you are with them in the moment. So today I want to share 8 simple ways that you can be more present as a father. And before all of you moms tune out, my wife said that all of these apply to moms as well. And I'm a dad, so I'm going to zero in and talk to dads, but I promise you these principles are transferable. And I also want you to know, I'm not speaking from the place of someone who's gotten all of these right. I am on this journey with you. There are days I feel I do really well at this, and there are days that I feel like I fail at all of it because my mind was a million miles away. So number one, I want this to be something where you realize that you don't have to check off every single box on this list. I'm trying to give you some tools that are simple, actionable tools that you can use in the moment. And this is also not about wishing you had more time, because all of us are on different time constraints. Your job might be very demanding and you need that job because you need to provide for your family. Others of you have different situations where you have more time. So this isn't about trying to get more time that is unavailable to you. This is about maximizing the amount of time with your kids that you currently have. This isn't about something you don't have. This is what you can do with the time you do have. And it starts with reclaiming responsibility for your presence. It's not your boss's fault that you can't be present. It's not your job's fault. It's not your spouse's fault. It's no one else's responsibility to be present. No one will ever take ownership of that in your life but you. You have to choose what you do with your focus. You have to choose what to do with the investment of your time and your energy. And the greatest investment we can make as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, when it comes to our family, is to actually lead our family well, to actually pastor our family, to actually shepherd our family, and to make the most of the moments that we will never be able to get back. So don't feel guilty for what you have or haven't done in the past. And don't feel this sense of overwhelm about the future. Let's zero in on the present moment, on today, and what are some simple ways you can be more present today, because that is what your kids are going to remember. They're going to remember the moments where they had a meaningful conversation with you. They're going to remember the moments where you were just there listening to them. And you can make those moments happen today. You can start renewing your reputation as a present father today. In fact, one of the foundational pillars of the Steadfast Way, which is a coaching group that I lead for men, specifically men in ministry who are husbands, who are fathers, it's called Steadfast Sight. And it's about being present to what matters most in the moment, seeing the person in front of you, seeing the moment in front of you, and being in that moment. So a lot of what we're going to talk about today are ways to put that into practice. Now, once again, all of these 8 suggestions are things that I am working on. In fact, today, one of my daughters said, "Hey, Dad, you're on your phone too much." So I am a chief offender with some of these things. So I'm in this with you, but here are the 8 ways to be more present in the moment with your kids. Number 1, document small moments that are easy to forget and revisit them often. Now, here's the principle behind it before I tell you how I put it into place. What you are looking for, you will find. So if you're looking for a Cybertruck, you are going to find a lot of Cybertrucks on the road. And you can let me know in the comments if you're a Cybertruck fan or not. That's a whole different video. So here's what I'm learning as a dad. If you are looking for memorable moments, you will find them. And so here's how this plays out in our house. We have something, and I've talked about this before, but it's called the funny list. So it's an Evernote that we just track funny things that our kids say. And we have it going back to when they were younger. And now we even have more specific lists for like trips that we go on. So we went to Hawaii and we had a Hawaii hot list. And we just write down the funny things we say, the funny things we experienced, the things that we loved about certain days or memories or moments. And what I find is we forget about something that just had us dying laughing in the moment. We forget about it so easily. But when we go and revisit the funny list, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, Leanna, I can't believe you said that when you were 6. And we just start laughing about it all over again. We start remembering it all over again. And it helps us maximize that moment over time. But then it also helps us to look for those moments in the present. So when something happens, we're like, "Oh, we got to add that to the funny list." Or if we're on a trip, like at the end of every day, like, "What did we love about today? Let's add it to the list." And then we just periodically revisit it. So you're going back to really special moments in your family's life, moments that you most likely would have forgotten. And you're able to be in that moment again, and you're able to look for those moments now in the present. What I'm not talking about is like, I'm just going to capture everything right now on my phone and share it instantly to social media. That's trying to publicize your moment. And if you want to do that, that's fine. But I'm finding that sometimes I'll just record the moment on my phone and then I'll share it on social media later. But I'm not trying to take myself out of the moment to put it on social. But even you can just go through like a photo album on your phone. So we did this the other night. We just went way back on our favorites list on our iPhone and we just put it up on the TV and we just looked at old pictures. And I'm finding that is a really easy way to be more present and to actively look to be present. So that's the first way. The second is just to ask better questions. A lot of times we joke about, as a dad saying, "How was your day?" and our kids just saying, "Fine." Well, I know some of that is kids just being kids and being teenagers, but some of that is our laziness in asking the right questions. I have a friend, his name is Larry Hagner. He hosts the Dad Edge podcast. And he tells us never to ask yes or no questions, never to ask one answer questions, but instead to ask questions that actually elicit a thoughtful response. So instead of saying, "How was your day?" this is a better question. What was the best part of your day? And then when they tell you the best part of their day, then even ask them, "Well, why was that so good? Why was that so meaningful for you?" Or what was the hardest part of your day? What was the most frustrating part of your day? But those actually require more than a one-word answer most of the time. And then your follow-up questions can help lead to better conversations. At our dinner table, a lot of times we'll do highs and lows, where we just go around and everybody shares their high for the day, which is a different way of saying what was the best part of your day. And then we share a low for the day. What was the most frustrating part of your day? Because we want our family to get comfortable talking about the good and the bad. And so those are just simple ways to ask better questions. We love to talk when I'm in town, I'm not at another church. We love to leave church together and talk about, hey, what did you learn in the sermon today? What did God speak to you? Was there any moment that you had during worship that really felt meaningful? Or when we pick our kids up from youth, asking them those same kind of questions. Or what kind of conversations did you have with your friends today? Asking about their friends also sometimes gets them to talk more. So ask better questions. This requires some planning, some intentionality, but it's not that hard to come up with the questions. And if your kid's not in a talkative mood that day, that's fine. That's life. That's being a teenager. But don't let that stop you from asking better questions. All right, here's the third thing, and that is transition rituals. Now, transition rituals help in a lot of different aspects of life, but specifically where it comes to being a good and present dad, here's how that plays out for me. I used to struggle with coming home from work and not being able to turn off the work part of my brain. And I would spend the first hour at dinner still being a little stressed, still being preoccupied, and not being very present. And then I realized that if I could work out before I walked in the door, it helped me get out some of that stress. It helped me kind of put work to bed and be able to say, okay, now I'm stepping into my role as being a present father, a present husband. And it just helped me like flip the switch in my brain. Now, sometimes it required me to finish work a little bit early, or sometimes it required me to come home just a little bit late and have a conversation with my wife and say, hey, can I come home 30 minutes later? Because I'm actually going to be more helpful and more present if I can do this. And sometimes I was able to do that, and sometimes I wasn't, because I needed to make sure I was also being a husband who was present and making sure that what she needed, I was available for. But what we found as a family was that when I could prioritize that space and transition from work to home, I was able to be much more focused, much more fun, much more present when I actually walked through the door. And on the days where I didn't have time to work out, because that was a lot of times too, just sometimes life happens, work ran late, my family needed me home earlier, I would find just sitting in my car in the garage for 3 extra minutes and just praying and saying, God, help me to be everything my family needs me to be right now in this moment. Help me to be who my wife needs me to be. Help me to be who my kids need me to be. Help me to trust you with everything that I'm worried about at work, and help me to walk into the house fully aware and fully present of who I'm supposed to be and who you've called me to be as a husband and as a father. And so sometimes just taking that 3-minute pause before walking in the door was enough of a transition ritual to help me not bring all the stress in with me. And I know many of you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that. So what kind of transition ritual will help you? Sometimes it's just journaling at your desk before you leave work and saying, these are all the things I accomplished today. These are the things that I need to do tomorrow, but I'm closing the book on that so I can go home and be with my kids. So it doesn't have to be working out. It doesn't have to be a certain prayer in your garage. You can find what works for you, but find something that helps you shift your mental state, your emotional state, and your awareness as you walk in the door. All right, here's the fourth tip on how to be a more present dad. Prioritize your own health. And this is where it can get a little tricky, because that can feel selfish. Like, I need to prioritize my wife's well-being, my kids' well-being, the company that I lead, the church that I lead. How do I make time for myself? But when you don't lead yourself well, you do not lead others well. So if you are eating like crap, if you are not taking care of your body, if you are so stressed because you're constantly on social media and your cortisol levels are high, your energy levels are not going to be in a good place to give your best or to bring your best to your marriage or to your kids. You're going to be sluggish. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to just not feel your best. And when you don't feel your best, you don't bring your best. And so when you actually take care of your body by eating well, by making sure you're moving your body and you're working out and you're exercising, when you take care of your mental and your emotional health by not constantly being distracted on your phone or not constantly being glued to a screen, but being outside, doing things you enjoy by reading, by learning. When you take care of yourself and you actually have healthy rhythms and disciplines in your life, it makes you a better husband, father, and leader, and just makes you a better man in every single area. So you love others well by loving yourself well. And that's one of the key paradigms that we focus on in the steadfast way. So if you're a man in ministry, you're a husband, you're a father, and you actually want to live a more present life where you feel more fulfilled, like you're bringing your best to the most important areas of your life, I'll put all the information in the show notes and in the YouTube description about the steadfast way. But whether or not you're in a group like the steadfast way or not, find healthy rhythms for your life. Know what works for you. I even have a link in the show notes for a free guide called The 7 Rhythms to Renew the Health of Your Soul. Take a look at that. I think it would help you a lot to make sure you're starting to build a foundation of personal health in every area of your life. Number 5, show interest in what your kids enjoy. And this is an easy one. This is low-hanging fruit. And it kind of ties back into ask better questions. So never once growing up have I ever been interested in crocheting. But right now, my youngest daughter, Sydney, she loves crocheting. She's even trying to start a side hustle called Crochet Cuties. And I have learned all about all the different loops, all the different hooks, all the different parts of how she crochets these amazing little, like these little s'mores. And she crocheted me a little potato because that's my nickname in the family, which I can't believe I just admitted that on YouTube. But anyway, I'm learning all about it. And I find that when I ask her questions like, hey, how did you do that? Or, hey, show me what you're working on. She just lights up. She can't wait to show me that. And so those are just small wins that don't take a lot of time, but they foster real conversation and moments that matter for your kids. So ask about what they love. Ask about it often. Number 6, pray for your kids by name. This is another one that, as a Christian, it might feel like, yeah, duh, of course we're supposed to pray for our kids by name. But it can be really easy, at least I know for me, to have generic prayers for my kids. Like, Lord, just bless all 3 of my girls. And I say the same kind of prayer every day. And any prayer is better than no prayer. I'll say that. But I'm finding when I pray for my girls specifically, and there have been seasons in my prayer life where I'll focus on one. I'll pray for all 3 of them every day, but then I'll focus on one girl on a certain day where I just go deeper into praying for her. But I'm finding when I pray specifically for my kids, the Holy Spirit begins to bring new things to mind about maybe what He's wanting to do in the life of one of my girls, or maybe what to be more aware of and to be more sensitive to. Maybe I start to notice, hey, I feel like this is something that they're struggling with. Maybe I need to ask questions about this, or maybe I just need to be more present in this area, or maybe I'm convicted that I haven't been very present, or I haven't shown them the kind of love and support that I need to. Maybe I'm convicted that I said the wrong thing and I need to say I'm sorry. One of the best ways you can be present for your kids, by the way, and this was not on my outline, so this is just a bonus, is to say you're sorry and to admit when you're wrong. Those are going to be moments that they remember your humility as a father, and they remember that you love them enough to care about the relationship, enough to say that you were wrong. So that's a bonus tip. But pray for your kids by name. God will guide you. God will direct you. And nothing joins your heart to another person's like prayer. So when you're praying for your kids, I believe that's drawing you closer to your kids, even if it doesn't always feel like that in the moment. All right, number 7 is going to seem pretty obvious, but it's just get one-on-one time with your kids. And this is where sometimes it can feel very overwhelming, especially if you have a large family. Like, how am I supposed to get one-on-one time with everybody every day? I don't have all this extra time. And there have been seasons where I've been good at this, seasons where I haven't been good at this, but I want to break it down into some just more manageable ways to look at this. I think a great goal for your day is to have one really meaningful conversation with your wife and one really great meaningful conversation with one of your kids. Now, if you can get all of your kids, so if I can get all 3 of my daughters and have a meaningful conversation with all of them in one day, that's amazing. Like that, I get bonus points for that day. But usually I'm doing good if I can just have one really meaningful conversation with one of them. And to me, that's a win. I want to strive for that. I want to try to create space for that. And a meaningful conversation can be 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour. But asking the right questions and listening to them, a lot of times they want to talk late at night when I want to sleep. And I'm realizing in this season that their desire to connect is more important than my desire to sleep. And so I'm having to learn how to be more present in those moments. But how can you have one meaningful conversation per day with at least one of your kids? And if you can do more, once again, great. Adam Weber, he's a pastor that we've had on this podcast before. He says he tries to do something fun with one of his kids every day. And it has to be something that they think is fun. So for one of his daughters, it was taking her on a drive because she was learning how to drive. All of your kids are going to have a different definition of that. But what's one fun thing that you can do with one of your kids each day? And once again, it can be short. These don't have to be these massive, elaborate like dates that you take your daughter on. I do try to take my daughters on a daddy date once a month. So each one will get one per month. And I don't always do it. Some seasons were really good. Some seasons I'm not. But I'm trying not to beat myself up about that when it doesn't happen. I just want to set a goal because I find if I set a goal, it is more likely to happen. But if I don't have any kind of goal that I'm trying to reach for, then I'm going to go month after month after month and wish I had a daddy date, but never did it because I didn't set the expectation for myself. And now sometimes they're asking for it, like, hey, when's our next daddy date? So try to find these rhythms with your kids. So one-on-one time. And then finally, number 8, and this is the one that I struggle with the most, put your phone down. Put your phone down. Your kids realize how distracted you are by your phone more than you realize it. And now I use my phone a lot for work, but that doesn't give me an excuse to have no boundaries around it or to be on it all the time. I have to have transition rituals with my phone the same way I have transition rituals with my office time. So here's some things that help me. Number 1, and here's just the main principle, and this is something all of us can do. When your kid asks you a question, put your phone down and look them in the eye. And this is where I got called out this morning at breakfast because my wife was talking to me and I was just doing something on my phone. And my daughter Adley said, hey, Daddy, are you actually listening or are you just looking at your phone? So I was called out. But I'm trying a lot of the times to, when someone's talking to me, put my phone down and just look them in the eye to give them the respect and the decency of being present to what is important to them in the moment. I don't want them to think the phone is more important. And if there's something like an emergency that I'm having to deal with, which let's be honest, there aren't a ton of those, but if it is, I say, hey, this is something that I have to do, but I really want to hear what you have to say. So just give me 5 minutes. So I'm learning how to do that as well. But look them in the eye. But just to be off your phone more in the first place, here's some things that are helping me. I'm using an app called ClearSpace that Jonathan Moynihan, once again, he's been on the podcast. He recommended this to me. And you can set hours that are your work hours, that it's okay to be on the phone. And you can set time where you don't want to be on the phone. And so if I try to get on, and you can attach it to different apps. So if I attach it to Instagram and I try to open Instagram after 5, and it'll say, are you sure you want to do this? And then it'll give me like 20 seconds just to wait and to pause And then after 20 seconds, if I still want to get on Instagram, it'll let me. You can set all these parameters. But most of the time I'm finding, oh, that was just like kind of this dopamine addiction of going to my phone, but I really didn't want to go on there. But if I'd gone on Instagram, I might have stayed on there for 10 more minutes. And so it's helping catch me in the moment, saying, actually, no, I really don't want to get on social media right now. Now, even better than that, and by the way, I don't have any affiliation with ClearSpace, but it's just helping me a lot. So I wanted to recommend it. Also, I'm trying to put my phone in the bathroom after work. So it's in the bathroom from like 5 to 8 when we're with our family. And then if I need to do something at night after the kids go to bed, I can look at it again. But trying to actually put our phone away. We have something, I've talked about it before, the phone bucket that we use on our Sabbaths, that we use sometimes on other days where we just all try to put our phones away. But find something that works for you. It's not about getting rid of your phone entirely, because I think there are ways that we use our phone to encourage people. There's ways that we use it for work, but it shouldn't have unlimited access to our lives, and it shouldn't take away from the meaningful moments with our kids. So find what works for you. Don't miss the moment in front of you because you're scrolling, trying to look at someone else's manufactured moment. So those are 8 ways, just 8 tips for you to be a more present dad, or if you're a mom and you've watched all the way through, to be a more present mom. I would love to hear from you. What has been the most helpful? What tips would you recommend? What would you add to this list? Put those in the comments. And let's just all commit to try to maximize the small moments every day that'll pass us by if we're just living life by default. Let's choose to live life with purpose and intention, and to give our best investment to what brings the best return. And as parents, that's our marriage, that's our kids. Those are our first ministry. Once again, if you're a dad and you're in ministry, I'd love to tell you more about the Steadfast Way. You'll find all the information in the show notes and the YouTube description. Please subscribe to the podcast. Please like the video on YouTube, share this episode. All that really, really helps us continue to build this community of dreamers and disciples. Also want to invite you to join me over on Substack. I have a Substack called The Joyful Leader, and it's where we continue to talk about a lot of the things that we talk about on the podcast, but specifically directed to how you can be a healthy leader who builds healthy teams. So I'd love to see you over there. All right, see you back here next week for more Dreamers and Disciples.